We're up to 30b3. We were talking about the importance of simcha, the importance of happiness, rejoicing, the connection with mitzvah, that type of rejoicing is something to write home about. It's something very unique, something very special. We said that Nevuah, divine presence, comes when a person's in a state of simcha, when a person's in a state of happiness. So that's how we were talking about, happiness. We also spoke about when Hashem, sometimes when Hashem shows anger, sometimes that's a positive thing, meaning to say sometimes Hashem will punish a person in this world, so they'll be able to have an easy world in the world to come. They wouldn't have to have any stop in HELL, so to speak. And sometimes when Hashem is happy, to act with happiness to wicked people, that's not a good thing, because that means they're getting their reward in this world sometimes, and they're going to lose out in the next world. So now, in the Gemara, after talking about the importance of happiness, the Gemara now goes with V'chei Amar Rav Yehuda, 30b3, in the first column, 30b3, it says, Amar Rav Yehuda, V'chein l'dvar halacha. When it comes to teaching Torah, it's very appropriate for a rabbi to start his class with things of happiness, which some will say like a joke of something, proper joke, in order to open up the hearts of the students. So therefore, a joke, so to speak, Rashi says the person needs to open up, the Dvar Halacha, you need to open up. Morning, Ben. Good to see you. Chag Sameach. A rabbi should open up. Rashi uses the English language, sarich leftoach, needs to open up with something of a joke, something a little light that will open up the hearts of the students. How do you like that? So now maybe some rabbis have a good account of jokes that they're able to open up the class in order to open up the hearts of the students. That's the power of simcha. The power of simcha, when somebody's happy, it opens up the heart. So, sometimes people take a drink, brings them certain happiness, and they're more open, either for good things or bad things. It has to be, people have to be careful with the drink. But here, the idea is to open up with a joke in order to open up for a purpose of opening up the hearts of the students. And l'chein l'chalam tov. Person wants to have a good dream. If you go to sleep in a state of you're happy, person goes to sleep sad, so your mind is thinking about sadness. So then the dream usually projects what you're thinking about during the day. It's what you think of what you see in the dream at night a lot of times. So people who watch violent movies, they see violence in their dreams very often, because that's what they're thinking about. So here the Gemara is saying that if you go to sleep in the state of happiness, so then your type of dream that'll influence the positivity of the dream. And it's very good to have a good feeling and not to have a bad feeling. A negative dream is a bad feeling. A person feels scared, the person feels, and therefore it's another thing, another side benefit of simcha, of happiness. Amy, the Gemara says, is this so? The Gemara is questioning the statement of Yehuda. Yehuda says when it comes to Dvar Halacha, when it comes to matters of law, Jewish law, you should open up with a joke. But we have Rav Gidol Marav. Give us the name of Rav. Kol Talmid Chacham Sheyoshev Lefnei Rabo. Any Torah scholar that's sitting in front of his teacher, Ve'ein Sivtotav Notot Mar, and his lips are not dripping a certain type of morning. Oh, look who's here. Yaron from Paris has arrived. Oh, great to see you, Yaron. I said that Yaron is coming today. Great, great.
Everything good?
When we see you, everything, Mashiach will come, then everything will be good. Mashiach, your brother-in-law, plus the real Mashiach. You can tell him you've got special mention to your brother-in-law today. Yaron was one of the poor men of the group of the Gemara class before he got married, back in the old days. The man who's a growing Jew in Torah, mitzvot, and everything else, Shemayim, is very, 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 very special. And he's brought the holiness to Paris. Good morning. When he's brought the holiness to Paris, and the simcha, we're talking about, he comes in at the right, we're talking about the mitzvah of simcha. He's a man of simcha, a man of happiness, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, beautiful midah. Simcha is a very key in life, being happy. Okay? And happy with the right things, over the right things. So now, Yaron, we're on Lamed Amud Beis. Lamed Amud Beis, in the art school, is 30b3, Lamed Amud Bet. We're about middle of the page. In the wide lines, where it gets wide, we're about 10 lines in, 2, 4, 6, or 8 lines in. About 10 lines in, I'm sorry. First word of a line is Alav, Yad Hashem. See, that we had Rabbi Huda said, just to bring everybody up to date, and we're so happy that Ben is back. So beautiful to have Ben. It adds a lot to the class. He doesn't live in Paris, so we hope we'll have him more easy to have him than the man from Paris coming in. The Gemara was talking about the idea when it comes to halacha, the importance of simcha. That the rabbi should open up with a joke. Oh, Rabbi, the idea that what's the idea of opening up? Now, obviously, the joke is a proper joke, and I presume it's a joke that something of happiness that people can learn from. I would also say, even if it's not something you can learn from, but to open up the hearts of the key purpose is to open up the hearts of the students. Because when your heart is open, then you can go ahead and what? And absorb the Torah, which in truth in life as well. When people's hearts are open, good morning, Boker Tov. When people's hearts are open, they're able to ability to hear something. I'm able to accept something what someone says. If my heart is open. If my heart is not open, you could talk to me for today. I'm closed. I'm not interested so much. So therefore, we see the importance of having something of simcha to open up the hearts of the students. So the Gemara questions that because we have a statement of Gidol Marav that says a Torah scholar, you're sitting in front of your rabbi. Let's say Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, right? When he was sitting in front of his father, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. So Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef is a Torah scholar, is a Talmud Chacham, right? And then you're sitting in front of your rabbi when the Talmud Chacham is sitting in front of his rabbi. What is the demeanor, the way the Talmud Chacham acts when he's in front? Is he in that type of mood, that jolly mood, or he's in a certain awe, certain reverence, a certain seriousness in front of his rabbi? So the Gemara says we know a Talmud Chacham sheyoshev tzvei Rabo, if he's sitting in front of his rabbi, ve'ein sivtotav notot mar, and he's not in that serious sense. He's not acting in such a serious way. He's lightheaded or something like that, or he's not in that happy. He's in a happy type of jolly type of mood. Then he's going to be punished in the future in Gehenna, because that's not the way you sit in front of your rabbi. You're a Torah scholar, you sit in front of your rabbi, it's supposed to be with a certain awe, a certain reverence. So it says if his lips don't drip a dread, meaning a certain awe of the rabbi, then tikavena, he's gonna get punished in the fires of Gehenna. It's a very strong statement, right? Ben, Gehenna is a strong thing. So meaning we're saying it's not appropriate for a Torah scholar to sit in front of his rabbi like he's at the movies, or like he's at a concert. He's in that jolly type of mood. But you just told me, and you just told me that it's important for the rabbi to say a joke to open up the heart, that the Talmud should be in in a happy mood. So it seems to be a contradiction, right? And the Gemara says, "Al tikri, moreover, don't the pasuk says the way this is a pasuk in Shir Hashirim, Siftotav Shoshanim Notfot Mar Over, which seems to which the simple meaning of the pasuk is from his lips. The pasuk says his lips go out, Siftotav Shoshanim, like roses, the smell, beautiful smell, like the smell of roses, as if it's dripping certain types of spices that have the smell, notfot, mar over, it's dripping spices that it's like the smell is like the spices are going, the smell is going far to a distance. I mean, it's such a powerful, positive smell. And more is one of the 11 spices that the Ketoret, every day you say the Ketoret, Pita Maktoret Ketzad, Achar Asa Samanim Hayabah. There was 11 spices that were ground and mixed together to bring the fire, the incense on the Mizbeach every day, every morning and afternoon. One of those incense was more. You look at more, Mem Vav Reish. But Mem Vav Reish also has in it Mar, Mem Reish, which is bitter, like being like not being in the state of happiness, like being like that serious type of state. I wouldn't say the Torah scholar should be bitter. You shouldn't be bitter, but you should be that certain type of awe. Al-Tikri, and it says Al-Tikri, moreover, and the pasuk could be understood, expounded by don't read it. It's this beautiful smell, this beautiful spice that's passing, that the smell of the fragrance of a beautiful spice is happening. Rather, out elamar over, there's some sort of some sort of seriousness. Al tikri shoshanim, don't read it shoshanim, roses. The word roses also has in the same word shoshanim is sheshonim. It's similar to the word sheshonim. It means when you're learning. That the pasuk is alluding to the idea that the lips of the person who's learning Torah needs to be with a certain awe, with a certain reverence. And if it's not going to have that, then there will be a punishment. So we see you're supposed to learn Torah in a certain awe. By the way, I want to just say, you ever see, how does a person sit when they daven, by the way? It's very important to sit a certain way when you daven. The Rav Yitzchak Yosef, Yaakov Yosef is not happy when people sit like this, when they cross their feet over like this. You ever see somebody daven like this? So you daven like this? Where's the reverence? Where's the awe and respect? Now, would you sit in front of the president like that, and you're having a meeting with the president, and you're going like this? You're in front of the president, right? What do you say, Ben? Is that a good, beautiful idea? And sometimes I see people doing that. I feel bad that they don't know the law, But yeah, you tell the people in Paris they have to know this law. I mean, hopefully they know it already. What? Asur is a big word, but it's forbidden is a big word. But I think if you look at it, should not be done. I mean, whether it's asur, I don't know if I want to say it. I don't know if I say it, but I have to look at the language of the Yitzhak Yosef. Look at the Yaakov Yosef. I'm giving you homework. Take it back with you. That it's not the way you don't sit. You're praying. You're praying to Hashem. You're talking to Hashem. You're in the shul. There's a certain awe. Certain way you're supposed to act in the shul. Just like you're not supposed to talk. You shouldn't be talking sports in the shul, right? You want to talk sports? Go in the hall, talk in the hallway. You know what I mean? Not in the shul itself. Yes. Oh, okay. Similar ideas, right? There's certain laws of how you act in a beit the Knesset in a shul. So that's something to think about. So here the Gemara is saying the same way you have to have a certain reverence and awe when you're in a beit the Knesset that we're talking about in front of your rabbi. Even if you're a Torah scholar, you could be Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef. You could be a rabbi yourself. But if the rabbi is sitting in front of his rabbi, you sit in front of your rabbi with a certain reverence, certain awe. But you just told me it's important that the rabbi should open up with a joke. So it sounds like if there's a joke in town, it's that you're not in that state of awe. You're not sitting in a state of awe if the rabbi is giving you a joke. So that's the Gemara's question. So the Gemara says, one, it's one has to do with what the rabbi's responsibility to do is, and one is the responsibility of the student. The rabbi needs to go in and say a joke. That's the rabbi, to open up the hearts of the students. But the hearts will be open, but they need to sit with a certain reverence, certain awe. But the fact that the rabbi said a joke, according to this first answer, is not going to take them out of being with that awe and the yirah and that they have their rabbi, but at least they'll be more open their heart is open, but they still have that awe. Lo kasha, ha b'rabbah. The rabbi, he needs to give it over with a certain simcha. Ha b'rabbah. Let's see if Rashi makes any comment. No Rashi. No Rashi. So one is the rabbi's responsibility. Talmud. The Talmud, the student, he needs to sit in front of his rabbi with a certain awe. But the rabbi himself, he should open up with a joke. Now, is he open up with a joke, putting the rabbi in the proper mood, or putting the students in a certain mood? So let's see what on here in this commentary over here he says. So they translate over here that the teacher should open up. The teacher open up with a joke. The idea is he needs to give over his words. Morning, Charles. Chag Sameach. He needs to give over his words with simcha. I mean, when a rabbi speaks, when a rabbi gives a class, how is the rabbi supposed to be giving the class? Is he supposed to be giving the class that the rabbi himself is so, in that good to see you, Charles. It's the rabbi give over the class that the rabbi is like so serious to the point that it's like he's not in that. You don't see the joy, the happiness of the rabbi. So the joke is the joke for the students. The way this way again, Rashi originally translated that the joke was for the students for the purpose of Rashi didn't say here, but there's a point somewhere else that says it's about someone we'll see maybe in the Gemara here that he opened up with a joke to open up the hearts of the students. So the first approach of the Gemara is it's not about the students. The joke of the rabbi is for the rabbi. To put the rabbi in a state. He needs to be in the state of simcha. He needs to give over his words with a certain simcha, a certain happiness. And you know what? When people hear words that are given over with a certain happiness, what's the right word? They receive it very well. It resonates very well with the with the audience, right? You know, when you hear from somebody who's talking words in a way of happiness, you know, when people are not happy and not so happy, that, you know, it's not as received as, look, people enjoy listening to a comedian, right? He's making jokes. So the rabbi's not a comedian, but the fact that the rabbi gives over his words with simcha, with happiness, and that will help the students. And and maybe that's a lesson in life as well. For a person is that deals with people in a happy type of mindset. The person is a happy person. So maybe the people like to listen, like to be connected with what that person has to say. Maybe it's a good idea for marriage. If a man or a wife is talks with a happiness, then maybe the other party is ready to listen. You know, people like to be connected with happiness. So that is the first approach. Um, so the first approach is students got to be very serious. The rabbi, he has to loosen up a little bit. He has to, and that's to give over his words in the state of simcha. So it's not about the students becoming happy. It's all about the rabbi giving it over in a certain way. I will tell you, I had the honor to attend some classes of Rabbi Vati Yosef live. He would make jokes in the class. I was like blown away. I was this guy coming to think, Vati Yosef, you know. I, as a student, have to have that awe. But I would think I would think he should be a very serious type of person. He was cracking jokes. Adam, what do you say to that? Right. Very good. So good. So according to the first answer of the Gemara, it was for him. He should give it over. The people, we, the students, should hear, we, the audience, should hear words of Torah given over in that way of simcha. That's the first approach of the Gemara. We're going to see another approach that was for the students, not to put him in the right mood, but for the students to be, not that he should give the Gemara Torah in certain type of jolly type of mood, but rather, both are talking about the rabbi. The first answer was one's the rabbi, one's the students. And now the Gemara is saying that both regarding the rabbi, we'll see what the Gemara means in a second, both regarding the rabbi, but Vilokasha. When we say the rabbi opens up with a joke, that's before he opens up the class. Before he starts the class, he opens up with a joke. And that's and vaha, but when it says that the way the students are sitting in front of the rabbi with such awe, lebata de patach. After he started the class, once the class started, so it comes out like this. The beginning, the rabbi makes a joke, students could be in that, maybe, and the point would be is he makes a joke, the students get into a happy type of mood, let's say, he opens up their hearts, but now that when he starts teaching, that's the joke. But now when he starts teaching, then there has to be this awe. But they already opened up. The heart was already opened up, but they heard like a lot of times the rabbis open up with a joke. Now people want to listen what the rabbi has to say, and then he says his speech, right? So that is the same idea. But the joke, okay, it was a jolly mood going on in the class between the rabbi, the students. They all could be in their jolly type of mood, most probably as a result of that. But once the joke is over, now we got to get serious. Now it's serious time. And the Gemara says, "Kihad the Rabbah," like Rabbah. This is what Rabbah would do. Before he taught his class, and who was he teaching? He was teaching the rabbis. like the rabbi's rabbi. You know what I mean? Before he opened up, Ama Milta de B'techuta. He would say something that's of happiness, a joke of something that would make the people and the rabbis laughed. The rabbis enjoyed the so to speak, the thing that the joke or whatever that was. And because of the simcha, now their hearts are open, and now they're going to be able to zone in to hear the class. But Lesof, but after the joke was made, Yativ Beimta, they sat with awe. They sat with a certain reverence to hear the rabbi. Upatach b'shmaita. And I mean, they sat, and he sat. Although the sov that, but the rabbi could say this both has to do with the rabbi. The rabbi opened up with a joke. He opened up with a joke. Okay, everybody's in a certain jolly mood. But then that was the beginning. But once he started his class, then Haba Rabbah, again, the rabbi was in a certain level of awe, and then therefore the students had to also be in a certain type of seriousness. Um, it would seem that Rabbi Yosef held like the first opinion, that the students sit with awe, but the rabbi gives it over with a simcha. That's what it would. Okay. Now the Gemara says, you know, the Gemara said earlier that the rabbis were thinking of putting Sefer Kehelet, that was written by Shlomo HaMelech, into Genizah. They were thinking of hiding it. We spoke about it. Why were they thinking of putting Genizah, like putting in Shemot? Because there were certain things in Kehelet which seemed on the surface contradictory. They didn't understand what which way to go. Like we said, one pasuk says simcha is very good, or he says, or schok, he says laughter and simcha is good, that it's positive, and one place he says that it's not so positive. So they didn't rabbis originally didn't know which way to understand, because one way is saying one, giving one message, and one saying the opposite message, one pasuk. Therefore they thought they're going to put it in Genizah. But then when they looked into the Sefer, they saw how it opens up with Torah, it ends with Torah. So definitely in the middle is Torah. We have to figure it out. It's such a holy book. We have to figure out, and not just to put in Genizah. Because if you put in Genizah, then no one's learning it. No one's learning it. So therefore they spent their time and they figured out the answer, that it's not a contradiction, and that's what we learned on Erev the Yom Tov. Yes.
They think back then that it's rough for this?
Yeah, I would definitely believe they understood it was written Ruach HaKodesh, but they didn't understand. You can have something written Ruach HaKodesh. You can have Zohar, but if you don't know what it means, but if you don't know what Zohar means, it's not an issue. But the issue here was, you have to try to figure it out. But here the issue is that the words were actually contradictory.
You're saying it's a holy book, but it could cause more
Right.
than good, therefore.
Right. Exactly. Ben is saying it causes more damage than good, because if people will learn it and they'll misinterpret what the meaning is, because he seems to be going in two different directions. So it's safer, it's better that let's put it in Genizah, and then at the right time we'll have it. But then they said they answered the question. So the Gemara says that this idea that they were thinking of putting Sefer Kehelet in Genizah, similar story happened with Mishlei. Another one of the famous great books of Shlomo HaMelech is Mishlei, which we all, Friday night, it's very common, people sing the Eshet Chayil. Eshet Chayil Miyimsa. That's the last parak, last chapter of Mishlei from Shlomo HaMelech. And Mishlei in English, they translated the book of Proverbs. That, right? They have all these Mishalim. And as you know, Mishlei it's an amazing, you learn by Rabbi Mizrahi on Tuesday nights. He gives a Mesilat Yesharim class. Mishlei is one of like the classic Svarim on ethics, on, helping a person become a better person, where you learn about great, how to be a better person when you're focusing on Mishlei. But there was also, they said that they had a similar issue with Mishlei. That seems that they had to understand, there were issues. There were seemingly verses that one verse was telling you one way to go in life, another verse saying you a different opposite way to go, and they didn't have clarity. So the Gemara says, its words seemingly were contradicting each other. And they weren't going to tell us an example of something that seem on the surface seems to be hard to be contradictory. Okay, if it seems that so why didn't they put in the Genizah? Good morning. So good to see you. So why did they put in the Genizah? So the Gemara says they were thinking, they were bikshu lignos. They were also talking about possibly putting it can be minyan, can be upstairs. I'll let Haron. Morning, Haron. The 7:30 minyan is going to be where? Over here. Okay. Morning, Joe. Morning. So say it's going to be here. The minyan will be here. It looks like. So they also wanted to go ahead, and they were thinking of putting it to Genizah, Sefer Mishlei. But at the end of the day, they did not put it into Genizah. So the Gemara says, so why didn't they put it to Genizah? Right? Meaning, if they were thinking of putting it to Genizah, right? Obviously, if you're thinking about doing that, if you're thinking about putting Sefer Mishlei to Genizah, you have reason why you were thinking that, right? No one's thinking of putting Sefer Yonah in Genizah. No one's thinking of putting the other Svarim into Genizah. But they're thinking of putting Mishlei into Genizah. So there was an issue, right? There was an issue that was bothering them on the surface. And then the Gemara says, but they did not go forward for putting it into the Genizah. So the Gemara says, why didn't they? Why didn't they put it into Genizah? The Gemara says, Amri, they said, Sefer Kehelet. The Sefer Kehelet, which we were thinking of putting it to Genizah, right? They said, you know what, we have a precedent. Sefer Kehelet, we also found seemingly contradictory verses, but what did we do? We looked into it and we figured it out. We were able to come and explain that they're not contradictory verses. So too, they said, Amri, Sefer Kehelet lav aninan. Didn't we look into Sefer Kehelet, Vashkechina Taima, and we found reason and we explained why Sefer Kehelet is not contradictory. So too, Hachinami. So they said, let's do the same thing over here. They said, La'anan, let's look into Sefer Mishlei, and if we'll look into Sefer Mishlei, we'll also be able to explain that it's not a contradiction, that they're not a stira, right? They were concerned, Yaron, that, yes.
No, Kuzmala is doing exactly what we see Khan, the rabbi, but new cases that we told also that was a contradiction, but no.
Right, exactly. In Kohelet, the contradiction had to do with simcha. How do you look at simcha? Is simcha a good thing? Simcha a bad thing? Is happiness a good thing? Happiness not a good thing? And the Gemara explained, good morning, Mark, with the Shir, Chag Sameach. And the Gemara explained about the simcha, right? How, when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate. So too, the Gemara is saying there was something about Sefer Kohelet. Now the same thing about Sefer Mishlei. The Gemara says there was something about Sefer Mishlei that was bothering, that seemed to be contradictory. And the Gemara says, I have an answer to explain why it's not a contradiction. So the Gemara says, "My dvarav sotim zeh zeh." What are the things that seem to be contradictory? So the Gemara says, Shlomo HaMelech says in Sefer Mishlei, Al ta'an kasil kivalto. Don't respond to a fool. The way, he talks foolishness, he talks with foolishness. Don't respond. Don't act in kind with the guy who's foolish. Uksiv, but there's another pasuk that says, Anek sil kivalto. You should go ahead and answer the fool. And so, what's the problem? Because if you don't answer the fool, he's going to think that he's the smart one. So we see he's contradictory, right? Two psukim and Mishlei. So that was bothering. See, so here's something, and they're saying, so what's the right way to go? So in life, we don't know. They didn't know what was the right way to go. Should you respond to the fool, or better not to respond to the fool? So Shlomo Melech is giving two different messages. So they were thinking maybe not to put it, to hide the sefer, because it's not. You're not going to know which is the right way to go in life. And the Gemara says, look, Kasha, it depends. If it's the Haba Divrei Torah, Haba Mila D'Alma, and we're going to end with this point. It depends. What is the guy making? What is the fool talking about? If he's talking about Torah, if he's making fun of Torah, so then you got to go ahead and answer him. So you shouldn't think that he knows better than the Torah. He's putting down the Torah. You have to answer him to respond to him. But if he's talking about Mila D'Alma, if he's talking about just general things, he talks foolish, you don't have to go ahead and respond to him. Okay, have a great day, everybody. We'll be back. Today is Friday. It's hard to know which day today is. We'll be back on Monday. Looking forward to seeing everybody on Monday, 6:45. Have a great day, everybody. Chag Sameach.